Hi there, fellow players. Here is our list of 10 of the most prominent playboys of the mid-20th century. Oh, by the way, this is the new YouTube channel dedicated to the horny men around the world. To be honest, it's actually a marketing channel for our brand new website tequila.com. Tequila.com is the place where you can see live data about sex around the world. But to get a lot of data, please go there right now and vote for the best girls in the best cities to gain girls and get laid. Thanks. In a time following the great turmoil of World War II, a new social phenomenon came to light. The term playboy was used throughout the 19th century for various reasons, but it wasn't until the 1950s that it embodied the extravagant womanizers whose pocket was deeper than a rabbit's hole. Every society has its celebrities, but these are especially famous for their lavish lifestyle. Once the intercontinental flights were made available, and the term jet set was coined, the young and the rich considered the world to be their oyster. They often came from different backgrounds but had a few things in common: looks, charm, money, and exquisite taste. Whether they were tycoons, heirs of industrial empires, royalty in exile, or royalty on vacation, diplomats, perhaps even spies. All these real-life James Bond figures were looking forward to an everlasting party. From the French Riviera to the Acapulco beach, they were raiding the casinos and nightclubs, flashing their expensive accessories, arriving in expensive cars along with world-class beauties, and leaving generous tips to waiters and lobby boys in charming hotels they inhabited. The Playboy generation originated directly from the so-called Café Society, a group of well-mannered rich people who spent their time partying in exclusive cafes of New York, London, and Paris in the late 19th century. In this list, we offer you some of the finest bon vivant characters of the old-school Playboys, the ones who shaped the image and the legacy of this particular lifestyle, which can be seen among public figures today. Number 1. Howard Hughes. This American businessman was known for his eccentric behavior but remains in history as one of the most financially successful figures ever. A film producer, a philanthropist, an aviation pioneer and above all, a playboy, Howard Hughes began his rise to prominence in the late 1920s, producing several blockbuster films like The Racket, Hell's Angels, and Scarface. Hughes was a highly competitive person, and this reflected in everything he did, including breaking the record for flying around the world in 1938. Hughes managed to complete the flight in less than 4 days. Howard Hughes's playboy status was constantly confirmed by many love affairs he had had with celebrity figures such as Bette Davis, Ava Gardner, Olivia de Havilland, Katharine Hepburn, Ginger Rogers, Rita Hayworth and others. He shifted his film career to aircraft production, landing several contracts with the U.S. military during the war years. This lucrative line of work enabled him to become incredibly wealthy, and his eccentric behavior was fueled by the large amounts of money connected to his name. Hughes piloted his own prototype planes and earned himself a reputation of a millionaire daredevil. The public was both fascinated and appalled by his controversial personality, as he was famous for fundamental decisions concerning business interests. Howard Hughes eventually became very reclusive and plagued by his obsessive-compulsive disorder as well as the injuries he had acquired after several plane crashes. Number 2. Porfirio Rognerosa. Hughes with his Boeing 100 in the 1940s. Porfirio Rognerosa in Wifo del Rodan. With a name like that, this man was an epitome of comfortable living. Rognerosa was a great Dominican diplomat and a close friend of the country's dictator, Rafael Trujillo. He held a function called Inspector of Embassies, a pompous title with a little political influence which enabled him to reside in Dominican consulates all over Europe before World War II. Rognerosa became well known among the French and German elite as a man valued by the number of women he had seduced. Considered by some to be Trujillo's personal assassin, Rognerosa was both feared and respected, while the women simply adored him. He often claimed that he had no time to work, as other worldly pleasures just exhausted him too much. A race car enthusiast and a polo player, Rognerosa acquired his financial might via his spouses, two of whom were considered to be the richest women in the world: Doris Duke and Barbara Hutton. Besides being married for 5 times, Porfirio Ronerosa was often involved in numerous romantic escapades which include dating Marilyn Monroe, Ava Gardner, Rita Hayworth, Soraya Esfandiari, Peggy Hopkins Joyce, Joan Crawford, Veronica Lake, Kim Novak, Judy Garland, and Eva Perón. His death came as a surprise in 1965, when he rammed his silver Ferrari 250 GT into a chestnut tree. After partying all night in a Parisian nightclub where he celebrated winning the Polo Coupe de France. Number 3, Gunther Sachs. Gunther Sachs was indeed a man of many talents. Born in a wealthy family of industrialists, Sachs dedicated his life to leisure. He was competing in bobsleigh in his youth and then became more interested in photography and documentary filmmaking. The Jet Set noticed Gunther after his relationship with the former Iranian queen, Soraya Esfandiari, and his friendship with the above-mentioned Porfirio Ronerosa. Sachs was a controversial photographer responsible for the first nude pictures ever to be published in the French Vogue magazine. Known for being a dedicated art collector, Gunther Sachs befriended many of the artistic elite in the 1960s and 1970s, mostly associated with pop art in the Nouveau Realism school. In 1966 he proposed to Brigitte Bardot in a manner, flying a helicopter above her villa on the French coast and dropping hundreds of roses. This over-the-top proposal ended in 3 years-long marriage, after which Sachs married once again in 1969. After leading an incredible and exciting life, Sachs decided to end it in 2011, aged 78. The reason for his suicide was presumably the fact that he had Alzheimer's disease. In his goodbye letter, he stated that he was faced with a horrible illness and noted that the loss of mental control over his life was an undignified condition, which he decided to counter decisively. Number 4. Fernando Lamas. Photo of Fernando Lamas from an appearance on the television program The Pat Boone Show. This Argentinian was already an established movie star in his homeland by 1950s when he moved to the USA to pursue roles in Hollywood pictures. Always presented as the Latin lover, his off-screen persona was largely influenced by the characters he had played. His image of smooth-talking gentleman led him to become a real pleasure seeker among the Hollywood stars. He was married 4 times, while constantly nurturing his Latin lover appearance. Due to his often exaggerated behavior, Lamas was parodied in popular culture via the Fernando character developed by Billy Crystal on Saturday Night Live in the 1980s. A fellow actor, Jonathan Goldsmith, who was a friend of Fernando Lamas, based his character on the Dos Equis beer commercial on the legend that rose around Lamas. The commercial titled The Most Interesting Man in the World features older gentlemen surrounded by beautiful women, as he tells the incredible tales of his youth. Number 5. Prince Alfonso of Hohenlohe-Langenburg. In the picture you see Egon von Fürstenberg and Prince Alfonso of Hohenlohe-Langenburg, a controversial businessman of royal origin who was the leading promoter of the Spanish holiday resorts of Marbella and Costa del Sol. Prince Alfonso dedicated himself to making Marbella, a fishing village, into a so-called playground, where playboys would meet and enjoy life to the fullest. In 1947 he started buying land parcels in the village and soon managed to convince the Rothschilds to partake in the investment. He organized the Marbella Club and the Costa del Sol's first luxury hotel, which was seen as an exclusive jet-set meeting place. To keep his wealth, as he was a rapid spender, Hohenlohe married the then 15-years-old Ira von Fürstenberg, who was the heiress of the Fiat automobile industry. Their wedding celebration in 1955 lasted for 16 days with 400 guests attending. Even though the marriage was highly controversial due to the girl's age, Alfonso managed to obtain a papal dispensation by which their marriage was blessed and approved. The couple parted 5 years later when Ira decided to marry yet another scandalous playboy called Francisco Baby Pignatari. Number 6. Gianni Agnelli. Giovanni Gianni Agnelli, known as El Avocado, the lawyer, was one of Italy's richest people. As a principal shareholder of Fiat, the largest Italian car manufacturer, this man held 4.4% of the country's GDP in his earns. But what attracted the public most about the lawyer was his exquisite, eccentric, and unusual taste in fashion. A true Italian gentleman and a master of sprezzatura, the art of making things seem easy and nonchalant, Agnelli always caught the eye of reporters who loved his combinations. clothes are a crucial part of the Playboy identity, and Johnny Agnelli held a very special spot in that universe, due to his fashion choices. He would wear a wristwatch over his cuff, or his tie would be out of line while matching hiking boots with suits. Esquire magazine named Agnelli as one of the 5 best-dressed men in the history of the world. And the classic men fashion magazine The Rake was inspired by one of Agnelli's many nicknames, the Rake of Riviera. Apart from fashion, Johnny Agnelli was interested in soccer, sailing, race cars, skiing, and horseback riding, typical for playboys of his time. Additionally, he spent much time consolidating the interior design of his many houses with world-famous designers. Number 7. Prince Ali Khan. Rita Hayworth and her husband Ali Khan surrounded by reporters outside Hayworth's home, 1952. Ali Khan, the son of Aga Khan, who was a highly influential political and religious figure in the Pakistani Muslim community before the country reached independence, was an exotic, well-mannered and well-educated attractive man who had his father's wits and sense of politics. Before World War II, Ali Khan courted several British women of royal origin, marrying Joan Barbara Guinness, the daughter of the 3rd Baron Churston. He did so, reportedly, to stay out of trouble, as Khan was involved with several women at the time. During World War II, Ali Khan joined the French Foreign Legion, and later the Royal Wiltshire Yeomanry. Ali Khan was decorated many times by the French and American governments. In 1949, he married for the second time, with the famous American actress, Rita Hayworth. The media covered all of his romances. Thus, Ali Khan identified himself as one of the leading bachelors and playboys of the mid-20th century. In addition to his diplomatic role as the ambassador of Pakistan and a vice president of the United Nations General Assembly elected in 1958, Khan became a pop culture icon during his youth. In 1960, he died in a fatal car accident. Number 8. Alessandro Ruspoli. Alessandro Ruspoli with actress Gianna Segal in 1955. Alessandro Dato, Principe Ruspoli was an Italian aristocrat with a taste for high life. Occasionally serving as an actor, he spent most of his time enjoying the riches he had inherited and enjoyed them in the fine company of Brigitte Bardot, Salvador Dali, Truman Capote, Roger Vadim, Roman Polanski, Emmanuel Arson, and others. Allegedly, this particular socialite was the main inspiration behind the Federico Fellini's picture La Dolce Vita, which examines the playboy lifestyle. Related to some of the largest fortunes in Brazil, inherited by his mother, Claudia de Conti Matarazzo, and holding a lofty title of prince thanks to his father, Francesco Ruspoli. The 8th Prince of Cerveteri, Alessandro began his wild life during the 1950s and 1960s, joining the European playboy elite. The prince started his acting career rather late, in the early 1990s, when he appeared as a leading role in the film The House of Smiles, which won the Golden Bear Award at the Berlin Film Festival in 1991. Number 9. Carlos de Bistegui. The Count of Monte Cristo, responsible for hosting the Party of the Century in Venice in 1951, always had a trick up his sleeve. Carlos Bistegui was, by many, the most flamboyant character of his time. Born to a Spanish-Mexican aristocrat family, he accustomed his taste during his young years. In the early 1930s, the rich heir built a penthouse designed by the famous modernist architect, Le Corbusier. Bistegui's celebrations were world famous, and the entire jet set was fighting for a +1 invitation. Known for his impeccable taste in art, he was a fanatic collector, who never regretted money for a good piece of canvas. As for the Venetian Party of the Century, it was held in Bistegui's villa, Palazzo Labia, on 3rd of September, 1951. It was a costume ball which brought to prominence many future fashion designers, as they were commissioned to create costumes for the extravagantly wealthy guests. Most prominent among them was Pierre Cardin, who was responsible for the design of 30 unique costumes. This Vanity Fair gathered hundreds of guests, who all enjoyed an authentic and surreal carnival, resembling the ones organized in Venice of the late 18th century. Number 10. JFK. This is the first family in 1962. Belonging to one of the most prominent American families, John F. Kennedy was perhaps the most important figure of post-World War II politics. Avoiding an all-out nuclear conflict with the Soviet Union was part of his daily job, but it is less known that JFK spent his youth as a very handsome playboy. He spent time traveling Europe during his college years, sailing the Mediterranean, or traveling across South America. Becoming involved in politics at an early age, Kennedy's image of a young political figure was deemed welcomed by the American press and media. Kennedy and his wife Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, former wife of a shipping magnate, Aristotle Onassis, used this image to gain incredible popularity. Their lifestyle and worldviews were largely influenced by the jet-set society, as also they often found themselves on exclusive guest lists.